The Beatles have been my whole life, really. When we split up, I thought, I'll never write another note of music, ever.
It feels like a great day to talk about some Wings.
You know, one of the things that always frustrated me as a Beatles fan growing up is that you never had a chance to really see them.
Yes, it was a totally different world back then. This was before the age of music videos, MTV, YouTube, TikTok.
The only chance we had to see them was on the occasional TV appearance or going to the theater to see Hard Day's Night. But thankfully, we're getting to see a lot more. And by the way, if you're a Wings fan, there's some new material coming out.
There really is.
Yeah.
And it feels like, we're finally correcting a bit of a historical oversight.
How so?
Well, for so long, the story was just the Beatles, and then everything that came after was, I don't know, just a footnote.
The Hangover, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now we're getting a major release that's all about Paul's second act. And it proves it was a main event on its own.
It really does. Okay, so we are talking about this new companion album for the documentary Man on the Run.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everyone should mark their calendars. This is all dropping on February 27th.
And the documentary itself is on Amazon Prime Video. It's directed by Morgan Neville.
Which is a big name if you've seen his other work, like 20 Feet from Stardom.
Oh, he's a fantastic storyteller.
You know he's not going to do some fluff piece. He really digs in.
He does. And the whole idea here is to explore McCartney's creative rebirth. I think we forget just how high the stakes were.
I mean, the biggest band in the world dissolves. What do you do next?
That's right. Paul has to figure out who he is without John, George, and Ringo. And this documentary and the album, they trace that journey, the whole Wings trajectory through the 70s.
And it was a roller coaster. I mean, let's be honest. It wasn't just instant success again.
Not at all.
But the press release for this album, it calls it a snapshot of Paul's creativity in the 1970s in 12 songs.
And that word snapshot is key.
I have to admit, when I first saw the headline, I got so excited. I was thinking, here we go. They're opening the vault.
The 10-disc deluxe edition with outtakes and studio chatter.
Yes, but that's not quite what this is.
No. And this is where we have to manage expectations a little bit. That announcement has this ambiguity that I think is keeping the hardcore McCartney obsessives up at night.
Guilty as charged.
They're parsing every single word of that press release.
Because you look closely and you realize, okay, this is not a vault-clearing treasure trove.
It's a very curated selection.
Yeah.
Most of the tracks are remastered versions of songs we already know.
But it's not just a greatest hits album either.
No, because there are 3 specific recordings that are previously unreleased.
And that's the hook.
That's the new content that justifies the whole thing for the real diehards.
Okay, let's walk through those because that's really the meat on the bone here.
For sure.
The first one that jumped out at me, and honestly the one I'm most curious about, is Arrow Through Me, rough mix.
Oh, this is a fascinating choice.
Yeah.
It comes from the 1979 Back to the Egg sessions.
Which is such a divisive album. You know, fans either love it or they think it's a mess. I think it's just misunderstood.
It is divisive, but I think history has been very kind to it. It shows a period where Wings was really experimenting.
Right. It's 1979. Punk has happened. New wave is happening.
And Paul, being the musical sponge that he is, he's absorbing all of it. Arrow Through Me is such a funky, almost R&B track.
It's got that amazing groove. But okay, for people who aren't like audio engineers, why should we care about a rough mix? Isn't that just an unfinished song?
Not necessarily. Think of it like a Polaroid from the studio before any of the, the Photoshop happens.
Okay.
When you mix a record for release, you add compression, EQ, reverb, all to make it smooth.
Mm-hmm.
A rough mix is raw. It's what the engineer prints at the end of the day, just to hear what they have. It's dry. It's immediate.
So you're hearing the air in the room, the space between the instruments.
Precisely. You hear their sound expanding beyond that melodic rock of the mid-70s. It's roar. It feels like you're sitting behind the control board with them.
I love that fly-on-the-wall feeling.
And I think there's a sneak peek of it on Amazon Music right now if people want to hear it.
Okay, so that's the studio laboratory. Then we go from that to the massive arena, the second new track.
Live and Let Die. Rock show.
Yes. Now, this is quintessential Wings. This is from the 1980 concert film.
This is the band in full theatrical mode.
They weren't playing in a van at universities anymore. They were a corporate stadium act filling the biggest venues on Earth.
They were huge. And Live and Let Die. I mean, if you're going to perform a James Bond theme,
you can't just stand there and strum it.
you need the spectacle.
You need the explosions.
You need the pyro.
You have to have the pyrotechnics. And this recording, it just captures all that energy. It's loud, it's bombastic, it puts you in the front row. You can almost feel the heat.
It puts you right there.
Yeah.
Now, the third track is fascinating because it goes back a bit earlier.
Right.
And it highlights a side of Paul that critics used to hate, but fans, I think, secretly loved.
Gotta sing, gotta dance.
Yes, from the 1973 ABC television special, James Paul McCartney.
Which is such a deep cut. That whole special was Paul's attempt to show he could do everything.
He wasn't just a rock star. He was an all-around entertainer. He could do the music hall thing, the tap dance thing.
It's basically him saying, look, I'm versatile. And you have to remember the context. It's 1973. He's still trying to build an identity that's totally separate from Beatles nostalgia.
Which is an impossible shadow to get out from under when you wrote Yesterday.
You're trapped by your own genius.
But this track shows his determination. He didn't care if it wasn't cool. He wanted to put on a show.
So even though it's only 3 new tracks, they really represent 3 different sides of Paul in the 70s.
The studio experimenter, the live spectacle, and the TV showman.
Okay, so we have these 3 gems, but the album is 12 songs. And looking at the track list, it feels like they're telling a very deliberate story.
Oh, absolutely. The sequencing is a narrative arc. Just look at the opener.
Silly Love Songs, demo.
It's a perfect choice. Think about it. That song was Paul's direct answer to his critics.
He was getting hammered in the press.
Right, they were calling his music lightweight fluff, especially compared to John Lennon's solo work.
All you write is silly love songs.
And instead of writing some dark, angry song, he writes one of the catchiest bass lines ever. And we should say that's pronounced bass, like the instrument.
Of course.
And he turns that criticism into a monster hit. So starting the album with the demo version of that song feels like a mission statement. It's defiant.
It absolutely sets the tone. And then from there, it kind of moves chronologically.
It does. You go back to the early solo stuff like That Would Be Something, which has that great homemade lo-fi charm.
Then we move into the partnership with Linda.
You have Long-Haired Lady and Too Many People. You can't tell the story of Paul in the 70s without Linda.
No.
She defined his entire post-Beatles life, personally and professionally. And Too Many People has those little lyrical digs at John, which shows that friction at the time.
And then, of course, the absolute peak.
Band on the Run.
The moment it all just clicked into place.
The commercial and the critical peak all at once.
And it finishes with the late decade stuff. You've got Mull of Kintyre, which, well, in America, people know it, but in the UK.
Oh, it was massive.
Right.
An absolute phenomenon. The biggest selling single in UK history at that point. It sold more than any Beatles single.
And then you have Coming Up, which brings back that new wave sound we were talking about.
So when you look at the whole collection, it really proves the point of the documentary.
That Paul could do it. He could succeed without the other 3 looking over his shoulder.
Exactly. He got massive validation on his own terms.
Okay, but before we get too carried away with our listening parties,
Oh, yes.
we need to pause for a very important public service announcement because there's a real chance for confusion here.
Yes, this is our consumer protection segment.
If you go to your streaming service right now and you search for Man on the Run, you might get very confused.
You'll be expecting to hear Jet or Band on the Run.
And instead, you're going to get international financial crime and fugitive billionaires.
But the key takeaway for you, our listener, is this. If you tune in expecting to hear Live and Let Die, and you see a former prime minister talking about sovereign wealth funds,
you have clicked on the wrong Man on the Run. Just want to make sure everyone's clear on that.
one is about a bass, guitar pronounced bass,
Okay.
and the other is about a bass violation of trust.
Very nice. Okay, let's get back to the music.
Let's.
So February 27th is the date. And what I find interesting is the strategy here.
The simultaneous release.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The soundtrack and the documentary drop on the same day.
It's smart. It's cross-platform marketing. You watch the story of that era, and then you immediately want to buy the soundtrack. It's a classic move.
But who is this really for?
I think it really serves two different audiences.
Okay.
For the longtime fans, like us, those 3 unreleased tracks are the bait. We already own Band on the Run 3 different ways,
At least.
but we don't have that specific rough mix of Arrow Through Me
Yeah.
that justifies the purchase.
And for the new fans, maybe someone younger who just saw the Get Back documentary and is thinking, okay, so what did Paul do next?
Exactly. For them, this is a perfect entry point. The Wings catalog can be a bit daunting.
There's a lot there. And some filler, let's be honest.
There is. This 12-track snapshot cuts right through the noise. It shows you the gems and the hits. It proves the 70s weren't just a hangover from the 60s. It was a powerhouse decade.
Which brings me to my last question, though. Does a 12-track snapshot really capture Paul's creative restlessness?
That is the big question. He was so prolific. 12 songs is a tiny, tiny sample.
And I can't help but wonder. I mean, documentaries like this, they get access to so much material.
Rehearsal tapes, studio chatter, alternate takes.
You have to think there's more unreleased audio in the film itself that didn't make it onto this album.
Oh, almost certainly. You'll hear a snippet of some jam in the background of the documentary, and it never sees the light of day.
It just makes me want more. I mean, 12 tracks is nice, but I'm the guy who wants the deluxe box set with 47 discs.
And a USB drive shaped like a pair of wings.
Yes. Or a taxi. Why aren't they doing that? I'd buy that right now.
Well, one can dream.
Uh-uh.
But I think even with just these 12 songs, the collection proves a point. It validates his determination.
He didn't rest on his laurels. He could have just retired and played Beatles songs forever.
Instead, he started from the ground up, in a van, playing universities, and eventually conquering the world all over again.
And this album, from that defiant demo of silly love songs to the power of Live and Let Die.
It tells that whole story of resilience.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Whenever you feel like knowing more about the Beatles, it's the Beatles, all day, every day, 8 days a week. Cass will do it again tomorrow.
Absolutely. Talk to you then.
Until next time.
When you listen,
Your mind conducts its own symphony.